We are here with Amy. You have a lot of crystals on display. Can you tell us a little bit about what you do here?
I run a pop-up shop called Nomadic Spirit Works. So where you find me is where you find me on any given day. I don't have a website with inventory on it. I started out doing tarot readings and energy healing since I was 13 years old. So 30 years of doing that, and then the last 5-6 years I've added crystals and things like that, and handmade jewelry and intuitive art. I teach classes on shadow work and the importance of facing your darkest forms and the darkest parts of who you are, because the reason we're seeing so many problems with the world right now is because people don't know how to deal with their anger and their pain. So instead of dealing with it, they lash out and attack others. I teach classes about that and how to do it because I've had to do it myself many, many times. I've had far too many weird experiences to deny that anything is possible. Yeah. When you get into a single car accident and the first question out of the sheriff's mouth is, how did you not flip? When you go down 20 feet at a 90-degree angle. And that's just one of many. Like my brother, he won't be in the same room as me when I do tarot readings simply because of the weird things he's seen me go through when I've done them. So it's been really an interesting life that I've lived, and I get to go and teach other people about the things that I've learned through a lot of trial and error and a lot of really bad mistakes that have almost claimed my own life.
As far as kind of getting into this field and realizing that you had a connection to maybe something greater than the initial understanding, where did you kind of begin with realizing, I can maybe understand this thing?
When I was a kid, honestly, I was about 6 years old, and I was terrified of thunderstorms. Absolutely terrified. And on the edge of my mom and dad's property, there's a giant maple tree that always got struck by lightning. And whenever it stormed, I took it upon myself, as a 6-year-old, to get my animals back in the house to get them to safety. During a particularly bad thunderstorm, I ended up underneath this maple tree. And all of a sudden, there's this giant dude standing next to me, holding out his hand. And I'm like, what the hell? And I grabbed his hand, and he walked me to the door, and I turned to thank him, and he disappeared. 4 years later, there was a Time Life book series about the supernatural and gods and goddesses and things like that, and I was looking through it in my brother's collection, and I saw this picture of Thor. I was like, I've seen that dude before! He was the dude that had helped me walk to the house. After that, I was just like, yeah, there's too many weird things in this world. Yeah. Because there's no other explanation, because I was also never afraid of thunderstorms after that day. I actually went outside and played with them.
Do you think that gave you kind of an attunement to a thunderstorm happening and changing your perspective?
Oh, absolutely, because I could start feeling when storms were coming. The weather would say, oh, it's going to be sunny. I'm like, no, it's not. It's going to storm. And to this day, I can tell whether or not a storm is going to be really bad, or it's going to pass by, or it's going to be like nothing.
Do you think that was a sort of blessing that you received, or something that was innate and maybe you learned to access at that point?
I think a little bit of both, honestly. I think that a lot of kids are very open intuitively, and then the world around them teaches them to shut down. And for me, I had too many experiences at too young of ages that I couldn't shut that off. By the time I was in 2nd grade, I had dreams that became reality. I'd be going to school, and all of a sudden I'd be like, I've seen this before, this exact moment. Oh my gosh, I just dreamed about this last night. What's going to happen next? Oh, I already know. I couldn't shut down because, the world taught me to shut off. But my experience were nope, you can't. Yeah. You know what's going on. You know what's out there. Keep going. What I saw and felt and sensed was not explainable about the world around me. So I went inward, and I went looking for the different, the oddities, the uniqueness, because I had no other choice.
Looking for the things that contradict that structure.
Yes, because what I found is the strange things are usually the things that hold more truth than the things we're told by mainstream society. So, you guys are really into the Bigfoot convention stuff. There's no doubt in my mind that he's real or was real at some point. There's no doubt in my mind that there's creatures that we have yet to discover. There's too many weird things that I've experienced that I'm just that there's some truth.
Doesn't quite add up.
Yeah.
Just before we started speaking on camera, we were talking about tattoos. And you mentioned you do jewelry as well. What do you think the benefits or other effects there are to attaching something either permanently with a tattoo or temporarily with jewelry to your body?
With me, every single one of my tattoos is actually spirit-driven. I have dreams of exactly what tattoo I'm supposed to put where. And if I do it in the wrong order, I get dreams where I get yelled at. So for me, it's spiritual protections. Every single one of my tattoos is to protect me. One of my spirit guides at one point said, jewelry can be ripped off of you, jewelry can be stolen, it can break, you can be lost. Tattoos, skin's a little harder to do that with. So you're going through all this stuff, you're dealing with all these things, you're fighting against multiple systems that want to destroy you. Get the protections on your skin, because it's going to be a heck of a lot harder for anyone to take that away from you. So every single one of these, you know, I've got deer, I've got the moons, I've got the fireflies. Every single one of them has a story and a reason, and a period of my time where I needed them the most. And so they are a record of my journey. Yeah, and all my jewelry, like my necklace, my bracelets, they're all handmade. And then like the rings are intuitive. Like I just found them and they wouldn't let me put them down, and I had to take them with me. So everything is intuitive for me.
What do you think the general power of a crystal is?
Stones have a tendency to call us out. So for instance, when I'm dealing with something, you know, I see my inventory all the time. So, but there's times where I cannot put a certain stone down. And I'll look up the meaning, and I'm like, oh, yeah, that explains that stone. Like, it'll be like, oh, you had a broken heart, and here's the stone for a broken heart. Or, you know, you need to get your voice back. Like, you need to speak your mind and draw your boundaries and embrace your power. Here's a stone for that, and they won't let me put them down, because at that moment, that's what I need. So for us, like, when you allow yourself to kind of let your guard down and listen, you can find the tools you need to call you out and say, this is what you need to work on. This is your next step. Like, please listen. So stones definitely have powers, and they're also mini computers, so they can be programmed into what you need as you grow and shift. So there's lots of connections between the earth, because it's also returning to our primitive nature and our primitive selves. That's all intuition is, really, is the remnants of our primitive brains. Once we tune in, we know exactly what our body needs. The rocks know what our bodies need.
Is there any specific stone that is maybe your favorite, or one that you have a special connection to?
I'm a sucker for anything with rainbows, just because I love all colors.
Yeah.
But blue apatite is one of my favorites, and it's a really good one for reclaiming your throat, you know, reclaiming your voice, especially when you've been through a lot of trauma. Like, I have complex PTSD. So I've been through a lot of really hard things that made it hard for me to speak my mind. And my heart's been broken multiple times, and it's a good heart stone to heal yourself that way. So that's one of my favorites that I constantly am returning to, and it's because there's so much shadow work for me to do. So that's one that keeps coming back to me in my journeys.
Is there anything else you would like to share or generally want the world to know?
Listen to your instincts. They are usually trying to keep you safe, and your first feeling or your first thought is usually the most accurate.
Wow. Wasn't that a fun video? If you enjoyed that, you can watch the full 49-minute video on the Bigfoot conference in the link in the description. If you'd like to see more from the channel, you can watch the Comic-Con video as well, or you can check out Pondercast, the podcast where I interview local musicians, creatives, or other interesting people. But for now, I hope you found something interesting, informative, or insightful, and thank you for watching. Bye!
You are watching Ponder Media!